Welcome to Jollof and Fiction, home of African literature and stories, the kind that warm your heart like a fresh pot of jollof. Today, you're tuning into a recorded session of our online book discussion, so sit back, relax, and join the conversation.
I hope you all had very wonderful days. Please confirm if you can hear me. I would like to know if I'm being heard. Okay, thank you, Judith. Thank you, Mary. So I'll start with an overview of what the book is. Jesus is Indian and Other Stories by Agnes Sam is a collection of short stories that explores identity, culture, and history. It's especially the experiences, it encapsulates the experiences of Indian communities in South Africa. At its core, the book is about people caught between worlds, different cultures, religions, and identities, often shaped by colonial history and migration. The stories are personal, but they connect to larger social issues like race, belonging, and equality. The book covers several themes like hidden histories and identity. From the introduction, we can see that it reveals something about the author. She talked about her family history, the indentured labor, Indians taken to Africa under harsh exploitative conditions, and this sets the tone for the whole book. I would like to think of it as the intellectual material that is the backbone of all the other fictional stories that were given. There were like 15 of them. It talks about the everyday life with deeper meaning. We see things that ordinary people like children, families, women go through, the cultural conflicts, growing up and questioning authority, family expectations and gender roles. We can see examples in high heels. A child discovers a hidden prayer room, symbolizing the clash between Hindu roots and Christian upbringing. And in the other story, Jesus is Indian. Okay, we'll just talk about them. And then another thing that it talks about is religion and cultural tension. Religions appears a lot throughout the stories that were written in the book. We see there is a gamble between these powers, identity and power. There's Christianity versus Hinduism, tradition versus modern life, children questioning what adults treat as unquestionable. And then another theme, there is voices of women and girls. Many stories are told from a female perspective, especially young girls. They challenge rules placed on them. They notice hypocrisy adults ignore, and they navigate expectations about behavior, marriage, and culture. There are many other things that were mentioned. We have also colonialism and its effects, colonial rule, racism and segregation, economic exploitation, like indentured labor. So I would like to hear from us as my first question. What is your perspective on the book? What did you get first while you were reading? What impression did it give to you? If you want to speak, just raise your hand and then I'll call. Okay, Lambert.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Treasure. I had mixed feelings about the book. I would say from the onset, I wasn't actually impressed at all. I felt like the book wasn't going to impress me, especially from the image that was sent. Everything felt bland. But as I kept reading, I still feel like some of the stories were way too short and some of them was a bit too abstract or metaphorical, like the story Child and the Dove. Some of the stories you had to read it twice to understand what she was talking about. But I feel there's a maturity to this writer's writing style that I really like. It's rich, it's really vivacious, and you can just see the wealth of experience in her words. Good writers, they tell stories, but great writers, they paint images in your mind, and long after you're done reading, you keep thinking about what you just read. I feel like Agnes Sam has a strong grasp on prose. There's just a kindness, a calmness that you can see in the tempo of her writing. Not in a hurry, not trying to rush anything, not trying to impress. Just a calm, quiet, confident, slow-paced communication and story. And it's been a while I read such a book. Most books, most authors, they quickly tell you the story. They just narrate the story to you. But I like her writing style. It's it's unorthodox a bit and a bit unconventional, but I enjoyed the book. Some of the stories I really liked, like Jesus is Indian. You could see that she was writing from her wealth of experiences that she had lived, not just formulating stories to tell to you. So if I'm to rate it, I'd give it a 6.5. I wasn't disappointed. At first I wasn't expecting much, but I wasn't disappointed. Thank you.
That's good to hear. I agree with you. I also felt like some of the stories were too short. So yes. Is there anybody else that would want to give an opinion on how they felt about the book? A number of us have finished reading the book, so I should be seeing more hands up. Okay, I have a lot of questions, so I'll just go to my first questions. Please bear in mind.
Sorry, I didn't hear your last statement. Sorry.
Oh, I said I have a lot of questions to ask, so I'll just go to my first question.
Okay, all right, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's bear in mind that I might just be calling anybody as Spirit leads me. So just listen and prepare your mind to contribute. So my first question here is, the book argues that indentureship was slavery renamed. Do you think renaming a system of oppression, giving it a new legal language, changes the reality of it? Can you think of modern examples where language is used to obscure injustice? I will just space it in the chat box now. So it's like a 2-in-1 question. Okay, I've done that already. I'll read it again. The book argues that indentureship was slavery renamed. Do you think renaming a system of oppression changes the reality of it? Can you think of modern examples where language is used to obscure injustice? Yes, Lambent, you can go.
Thank you again. I actually like this question because the question also came to my mind when I was reading the book. I think that it doesn't necessarily change the reality of it 100%, but it tones it down. Like indentureship, it's not as as time progresses, is usually not as fierce. The subtle canopy names we give to oppressions that we already know but is now marked differently is usually slightly watered down, but the mindset behind the oppression is still there. That is why it seems as if it still continues. There's a Black woman I follow on Instagram. She talks about Black history and culture a lot, and she made an argument that I found interesting. She said that in the mind of quite a number of white people, they really wouldn't mind if slavery comes back. So the mindset that sponsored this kind of oppressions is what causes it to metamorphose into something else that is, in quotes, still the same thing but now has a different name. I cannot think of any example directly off the top of my head right now, but I would relate it to some certain traumas that some people may have, where they will say, I was also flogged when I was in junior school. So junior students, people will hear from me. Maybe someone has gone into SS3 in boarding school and they cannot also wait to oppress their fellow junior students. So it makes me wonder, if you went through this and you felt it and you know how it was, how are you eager to quickly reciprocate? I think you should be more apprehensive to do that to a fellow person. So there's, because of human nature, a lot of things have not actually ended. there are still undertones of apartheid till today in South Africa. There are still genocide undertone. There are still some people that are so hateful of other races, even till this day. But I feel like the change in name waters it down. So the indentureship wasn't as fierce as outright slavery. And then the next one that came after indentureship, I'm trying to remember the name she called it, wasn't also as fierce. So it's watered down because of consequences, not necessarily because the human nature that was sponsoring it has changed. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Thank you.
Yes, very well understood. That was a very nice perspective. I would like to hear from others though. Okay. Yes, Barnabas, you can unmute your mic and speak.
Okay, so I like to I agree with her. I think there are two sides to this, depending on the type of mind or the mindset of the people under in the circumstance actually. So your question says if naming a system of oppression changes the reality of it. Okay, I think now I get up. When you mentioned system of oppression, something else came to my mind. But now at the angle I come from is I think the name also does something. You get it? Because look at it this way. If I hired you, if I said, oh, I wanted a male servant to come work for me, your mind already, there's a disposition in your mind already that, okay, you're coming to the work of a male servant. But if you look back at the time where the whole thing of slavery was in, like, was a thing, when slavery was a thing, partly what the servant does is what the slave does. And there are some families that they give the slave some kind of liberties. Do you understand? So I think, I'm just saying, this is another side to the coin. I agree with everything Taylor says that changing the name tones it down a bit. But the name too also affects the state of mind of the person who is working. Because if I mentioned it in some review time past that some housemates, some people are called to come and be like a house help in African homes. They are treated as slaves, like modern day slaves. Do you understand? It's being hidden under the gaze of what's it called? They're treated as slaves, but yet they are regarded as slave or house help. Some of them after the children have been served food, they now give them what's left over. You are literally treating such person as a slave, but because you've called it, oh, I'm just coming to that to help. In the person's mind, I'm not a slave, but you're actually being treated as one. So I believe that the name also affects whoever. I think it also goes back to condition whoever is in that system of operation. And they know this. That's why a lot of times they keep changing the name so that your mind too keeps adjusting the fact that, oh, at least I'm not called a slave. Even though I'm treated as a slave, I'm a house help, I'm a housemaid, I'm not being called one. Do you understand what I mean? That's my point. Thank you.
That's very true. Even though they are paid peanuts, they are made to believe that they are getting what they worked for. They are getting remuneration for what they worked for, which is not always the case. Okay, I'll go to my next question. So I said I have a lot of questions. Sam writes that history is not merely unwritten, but is actively distorted. Who do you think has the right to tell a community story? What happens when a community cannot tell its own story? Do we get the question? Okay. Light, you can unmute your mic and speak. We cannot hear you, Light.
Oh my days.
Sorry, Light, I didn't even speaking. We can't hear you.
Can you guys hear me now? Like,
Oh, yes, go on.
Yes, we can hear you now.
thank you. Sorry, I think the network is really bad. Okay. I think that every history, for the most part, is distorted, and that everybody who survives has a right to tell the way they remember it. And any community that cannot tell its own story will have its story told for it. And when somebody is not there to actively defend what happened to them or tell the story from their own perspective, the perspective of the storyteller take precedence. The perspective of the victor or the person who vanquished them will be the story that will be told. And it's the most unfortunate thing that happens in almost every case of history you hear. So everybody tells it from their own perspective, from how they see life. And many times the person telling the story is telling it to favor themselves, especially if they're the ones telling the story. So it's why people who study history are supposed to be unbiased when looking into situations so that they can tell a story without actively trying to take sides. But I think it's impossible all the time. So a community that cannot tell its own story will have its stories told for them. That's what I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that perspective, Light. Lambert, you can unmute your mic and speak.
Thank you. I really agree with Light. History, the best part of history, telling history accurately is to tell it unbiased, because there's always the victor and the vanquished, the oppressed and the oppressor, the victim and the one that was causing the problem. So everyone should tell history unbiased. The problem with history, and why I agree with Light again, that there's currently there is almost no accurate history. I have a very firm grasp on the Biafran War because my father and uncle both lived it and fought in the war and told me eye to eye what happened. I feel like that's the most unbiased, uncensored history, when someone that was there tells you the story. But even in their story, as empathetical as it is, I could still hear hints of bias. Everybody tells the story according to how it suit them, how they experienced it, or how they interpreted it. So I feel like just tell what happened. If someone was wearing pink, took up a rifle, and then shot someone on green, say it the way it is. But the guys, especially the victors, the people that win, always try to make themselves the heroes, or like, oh, they were stopping something, that's why they came. The oppressed will always make the victors the complete villains. So I feel the best of history is when it is told exactly the way it is. I think that currently there is no uncensored, unfiltered, perfectly unfiltered history. Almost none. Even the ones that are close still have hints of bias. And then I would also say that the only person that should tell their story or their history is the people that lived it, the people that experienced it, the people that went through it on either side, whether they experienced it on the receiving end or on the giving end. Everyone should just be honest and tell it the way it is. If a community cannot tell their own story, things get bad. A generation can be born that don't know the degree of what happened. So a community should tell their own story. Till today, we are still hearing the gross evil of slavery that wasn't told to us the way it is right from childhood. It was greatly censored. But thank God there are materials online and so many things to see. Even the Great Slave Dungeon in Ghana, that once you enter there, you shudder. You can literally feel the spirits of victims past. When a community cannot tell its own story, it's a mess. So everyone should get to tell their own story. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Taylor. Do you still want to say something? Like your hand is still up? Ebube, you can go. You can unmute your mic and speak.
Okay, thank you so much, Treasure. I think I agree with what Lambent said, particularly part where it should be told by those that kind of are part of the history, those that experience whatever story you want to tell personally. Okay, so and then she mentioned that she had an experience herself where someone that was a part of the Biafran War told a story, but then she still felt that there was some bias in it. I think there's always this part where people want to tell things the way they think will make it feel better. Even if you go through talking from Igbo aspect perspective now, we have things we call story. We have these stories that back then. I'm not sure if you see happens now. Back then, at night like this, when the moon is out, they stay under a tree and then they tell the children stories of animals, folk tales, all these kind of things. But then over time, when the mother tells a child, the child adds something or removes something. So it's always better actually that those things that are being said are documented by the person. Yeah, like it's not being said um, orally per se. It's been documented by the person. I saw a movie recently. I think that was even the second time I saw the movie again. It was I think 1688 that featured the black Americans that sorted out a whole lot of pile of letters and sent it to the fight. I think that was World War II, World War One. So these American ladies, black American ladies particularly, they were able to sort out things that the whites were unable to do for a number of years, if not months, that they were given the opportunity to do it. So, but this story was not told until it was not recognized. They were not recognized for that particular thing because the system kept distorting that story. Yeah, that's where this distorting thing comes in. So it kept being distorted because they don't want anything that concerns black in their history to be made public that way. Okay, but then we found out again. Then there was I think one of the women is alive actually. She even came up with the movie at the end. So it was when she now came up with it and then told the story when it was consulted. I don't know how they get to find about it, but it's always better when the person that experienced the whole thing tells it from her own perspective, from their own perspective. And not just one person, two, three, four persons can come together. If they say the same thing, then that's all it is. Because no one person can experience a thing like as big as a war. It can be seen by multiple. So if all of them come together and say the same thing, then yes, that is what history is. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ebube, for that interesting perspective. You just told us a whole movie in 1 minute. Very interesting. Samuel, you can unmute your mic and speak.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Can you hear me?
On.
Oh, okay. So, when it comes to telling a story, I think, in my opinion, it is largely dependent on every community to tell their own story. Because sometimes like certain stories are told from different perspectives, not necessarily because the person is trying to actively distort that particular community's history, but probably it's just like how they saw it. So if you're taking the example of let's take a biblical example like Jesus, where we take Jesus for example, we see Jesus as the hero, the savior, and everything. But then back in the days when the Roman historians and everything are writing their story, they see the story as a rebel who was like defiling authority, everything. In the end was crucified for his rebellion and everything. So from their perspective, the story is different. And from the perspective of the Israelites and maybe like we Christians, the story is also different. But then in like I said, it will largely depend on the community itself to also like tell their own story because yeah, it's about them. And so I think also looking at it, there's this speech I listened to by Chimamanda where she talked about the dangers of a single story. And she shared the experience about when she went to America, her experience. Like, they look at her and it's like she's from Africa and they're not expecting her to know certain things. and these guys like they see as someone who came from the jungle and all that kind of stuff, and it's all because of the single story that's been sold to them about Africa being a jungle. There's that people who actually think we probably don't have TV or something and this kind of stuff, you know. So when it comes to stories, yeah, sometimes like the community is largely dependent on writing their own stories, but then yeah, like the stories still can be told from other perspectives, which is all right because that's how they are seeing, not necessarily because they are trying to distort it, but because of their perspective. Sorry, I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samuel. That was a very nice perspective. I also watched that video that you mentioned, and I really like that you mentioned it. We'll go to the next question. I'm pasting it in the chat box now. Okay, I'll read. In Jesus is Indian, Amma's defiant claim that God belongs to a culture too. What does it mean to claim a religion or a God as your own? Do you think religious institutions today are still used to erase or subordinate certain cultures? I'll read it again. In Jesus is Indian, Amma's defiant claim that God belongs to a culture too. She claims that God belongs to a culture too. What does it mean to claim a religion or a God as your own? Do you think religious institutions today are still used to erase or subordinate certain cultures? So I would start to call names. I would call one person before you speak. Inni Brown, is this still on the call? I don't think.
I am.
Okay. I would like you to offer your perspective to the question that was asked. Yes, birthday boy.
So the question is religion still being used to subordinate culture? Okay, I think so. I would say that especially a good example would be in the north. I think that Islam is still being used to control the last populace, especially in the north, because what the Imam says is what goes. You see it during political season. You can do all your rallies and everything. You can come and talk about how you are going to do the best. But once you go to the mosque and the Imam tells them something, that's pretty much it. That's what you go for. And I'm sure you could see many more scenarios like that. In America, the evangelicals control they have like a large thing to what conservative America would do in America. So I think to a large extent, religion still plays a large role in controlling and coordinating with
All right. Thank you, Inni Brown. I would call the next person. That's Light. Light, you can unmute your mic and speak.
Okay, thank you. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay. So when I read God is it's that when I read it, I smiled because this is my understanding of some correct. But what I understood from her claim was that the monopoly on God, she wasn't particularly Indian. At least that's not understood it. She was saying that teacher God, I have mine too. That was how I understood it. Not so something that me struck was that although the church and there was they refuse to a Christian in quotes name. And it goes to say the daughter refused to call her mother by her non-Christian name, and they shrine dedicated to their God, the God of their ancestors, the God in which they served. And I think what they have known, even though that's what the question being asked here. That's on the one hand. On the other, if you're asking religious institutions today, are still used to erase the and about the now talking about South where I live, South is how for the most part, identify as Christian, for instance, that will be so vexed and hear that tend to watch masks and that affiliation with African traditional religion, or that they practice some things that their fellow brethren feel is symbolic or traditional. You hear people things like, it may be your culture, but it's not what the Bible prescribes. Why would you live your life like that? Is the religion that comes with option, and you some way of life, whether out of what you do and how you do it, is dependent on what religion you practice, why you eat certain foods, why you don't eat others. So religion will always have a serious hold on why we do what we do, and if we can continue to do things the way we used to do them before we began to practice certain religions. Thank you.
I really do agree with you, but I'd like to hear other perspectives. Barnabas, you can unmute your mic and speak.
It's good evening. Thank you for the opportunity and treasure. So, I'd like to say that religion has always been used as a tool. I think ever since man became aware or conscious of the fact that there is a being above him and that being exists, his desire to connect with that being has been tailored and shaped into several things. And people understand this desire, so it's being used against and for man. So, to the question whether or not religious institutions today are still used to erase or subordinate certain cultures, I can only speak from my end because things I've seen so far, and I say yes, that religious institutions have been used for hideous reasons, very, very diabolic reasons so far, and that answers the question. And I don't want to go ahead to share knowing fully whether this will go on air, and I don't want to start stirring up stirring up things. So I just to answer your question, yes, they are still being used to erase or sublimate certain cultures. When I say cultures, I think it's not beyond culture, but certain sects erase certain sects and erase other religion as it were. I'm just, like I said, I'm choosing my words carefully. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Taylor, you can unmute your mic and speak.
Thank you. Yes, I would say that, as a matter of fact, one of the problems or ilks of religion is the exclusivity of God. God belongs to me and not you. God of my family, God of me, but not of my neighbor. Is one of the problems of religion. It's from such a mindset that the crisis associated with various religions stems from. But the moment you understand that God is a God of everybody, God belongs to all of us, a lot of dogmas are then dismantled. I really, really like Hammer's steadfastness. It's interesting. I don't know. I think each and every one of us, we know such a person in our lives who is not very literate, barely as educated as you, but they have emotional intelligence, they know how to talk, they stand their ground. I like that child's mother, I like Hammer, I like her saying, yes, Jesus is Indian. Jesus belongs to us as well. It belongs to everybody. If he's truly a loving God, especially in let's say Christianity, then he's the God of all and he loves everyone. I think that religious institutions today they are still used to erase or subordinate certain cultures. But like now, as I'm going to tread carefully, but I'm just going to say that no matter how much we want it to, there are some tenets of these various religions are incompatible with some certain cultures. So the very fact of crossing over from whatever your culture, whatever is obtainable in your culture into this religion has already almost erased your culture. You're very identifying some religion is not always nuanced with culture. Let's just accept it. Whether it's whatever religion it is not always, it doesn't always go. So the very fact that you have identified with this one, you may have to let the other one go. Otherwise, let this one go and stick to the other one. The beliefs usually clash. So yes, cultures are usually erased, or some certain beliefs of cultures are usually erased by religion. Thank you.
So we're saying that culture and religion cannot go side by side because of some things will not agree in your culture, religion will not agree. So you have to just choose one and choose to walk in that way of life. Thank you, Taylor. Okay, I'm going to go to my next question. In The Well-Loved Woman, Camilla is described as someone who cannot be ostracized because she is well loved. That means a community with our love within the community gives her a kind of immunity, so she can say certain things, do certain things. So, do you think love or social capital can really protect someone who challenges the status quo, or does it eventually run out? I'm copying it now so I can paste it in the chat box. Okay, so I'm going to read it again. In The Well-Loved Woman, Camilla is described as someone who cannot be ostracized because she is well loved. Her love within the community gives her a kind of immunity. So, do you think love or social capital can really protect someone who challenges the status quo, or does it eventually run out? Okay, before that, I'm going to call one person. Ebube. Let's see Ebube has spoken. Are you still on the call with us?
Thank you so much. So, I wasn't really sure I want to respond to that because I have not read to that point yet. But it's a question. Let me just see how I can answer that. Okay. So I think really, let me just look at the question one more time before I respond, if you don't mind.
I did not hear you clearly. You want me to read it again?
I'm looking at it now. So let me just. Okay, yeah, I was just thinking of something when you're reading the question at some point. I don't know if I correct or not. So the reason why some people are president in some countries and they probably get that position more easily is because people love them usually, yeah? And most times when they are coming up there during the election period and all those things, they are coming because they want to. There are some things that they are putting out against the current president or against some certain things that have gone wrong. So when they are doing this, they are getting those people that like the masses generally to get to, let's say, love them now or get to see things from their own point of view, or they themselves are even seeing these things from what they've experienced themselves, being in this situation with these people. So yeah, I think there's a point where it gets to runs out, though. Yeah, it's as if you're not really taking what's the word? If it's not really planned that well and all of that, but love generally can keep someone, make someone follow you till the end. There are people that you will follow till even a ditch because you love them so much or you believe in what they are saying so much. Get the point. So I'm not really that sorry yet, to be very honest with you. But love, yeah, I guess from a personal standpoint of view, can make you follow someone to do anything. And then if you really love the person as a and see the relationship quality, and I see that the person do something that will benefit you, like you just mentioned something about uh, or breaking out of status quo. Yeah, you go all out to make sure this thing gets because you're not comfortable with it. So you believe what the person is doing, and then you go with the person until it gets done. So yeah, I think that works too. But I'm not sure it runs out as much, except of course it gets to a point where something happens in between, and then it goes off. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Ebube. I will call one more person, Lambert. Don't be angry if I call you. Mokut.
Hi, good evening. So I'm here to listen to every other person speak because I didn't read the book this week, so I'm really, really sorry.
Okay, Lambert, you can go ahead and answer it. And Omito make and speak.
Thank you. I don't think it's love, actually. I would say it's not love. Because if it is love, true love, genuine love, unbiased love, no strings attached love, then they would extend the same grace and courtesy to every other normal person who dares to oppose their archaic belief and traditions. I think it's admiration. But even then, I still don't think it's even, pure admiration where you just admire someone. I think it's on borderline of envy, as a matter of fact. It's giving the vibe of what Nigerians do to celebrities. Nkechi, your neighbor that lives next door, got pregnant out of wedlock, and the whole neighborhood almost crucified her. Everybody points to her and tells their daughters not to be like her. Each and every one of us here knows celebrities that are born 4 or 5 that are not married. Each and every one of us here knows celebrities that are doing the same things that would criticize our friends for, and we're still farming them. So when I look at that story, I don't think it's love. I think that they are looking at her as a celebrity, as a celeb, and from time immemorial, celebs can do no wrong. So she's living a better life than all of them. All of them, they are in their local vicinity. She married out. She has a loving husband, which is not very common in their place. Most of their marriages are arranged, and there is usually no love in the marriage. Some of them are even being currently beaten by their husbands. But in such a time when people didn't marry for love, in such a timeline, she was able to marry a man that loved her. They were so mushy in love that even when he came to visit, her younger sister said, I could see he clearly loved her. Then she was literally living the life. So it was admiration, and it was an aspiration to be like her that shielded her from the things that would have otherwise condemned any other person in their community that did it. I'm certain that even if they saw her talking to the man that they were all criticizing, suddenly they will start looking for a different perspective because it is her. They could start saying, oh, maybe the man is not that bad. Maybe if she could talk to him, then maybe we have misjudged the man. A thought that may have never entered their head if it was any other person that was talking to the man. So a celebrity status or fame or success, in quotes, shields people. It shields people. People make excuses for you a lot. People extend grace to you. People judge your intentions, not your actions. You could do something actually wrong, and they will still say, maybe this was what he was thinking. So what we see happening today on social media was what was happening that period. She was a celeb, and they were all looking up to her, hoping to be like her one day. That was what actually shielded her. I don't really think she was a well-loved woman. I think she was just a complete intrusion into their norm, and they were held obstruct. They didn't really know how to react to her. I don't think it was love. If it was love, then they would be a bit more gentle and kind to the other people that would dare, talk or do the way she would have done. See the way Steph that her younger sister was surprised she could talk to her parents like that. I don't know if you've noticed parents that they would almost crucify one child, but then maybe another child that is really successful. They have graduated school, they are reading law, they have money. Suddenly, your parents that you don't believe that your parents can listen, suddenly start listening. So, status causes people to look at you in another light, not necessarily love. Thank you.
That's a very nice perspective. But that's another way to look at it. It was not love, but because of admiration and how they looked at her. Thank you very much, Taylor. I'm going to go to the next question now. All right, I've posted it already, so I'm just going to read it. In Innocence, three South African women, Indian, African, and one other, they spent a week together and they found genuine friendship nearly impossible despite their best efforts. So what do you think is the best obstacle to solidarity across racial or ethnic lines? Is it history, politics, distrust, or something else? You don't have to have read this book to be able to answer this question. So once again, I'm going to be calling names. Betty, please unmute your mic and speak. Are you with us, Betty? I don't think Betty is with us. Judith. Okay, you can unmute your mic and speak. Lambent.
Thank you. I would say that the biggest obstacle to the unity we all desire to see in the world across races and ethnicities is the mind. Sometimes we may want to blame our parents' generation. Why are they so obtuse? Why are they so stuck in their ways? But we have an advantage because of the time we were born in. So in as much as I would like to say, oh, it's all in your mind. Once you break down those stereotypical walls in your mind, you'll be able to relate to just anyone. But at the same time, I won't dismiss the fact that stereotypes are very powerful. There are families that I grew up hating because of stories from my parents. Till I grew up as an adult and began to question those, why am I thinking this way? Did this person do anything to me? Okay, yeah, they had one or two altercations with my parents, but it's in the past now, Abi, and they've moved on. Why am I hating? Why am I inheriting hate? So if you don't question, you will also catch yourself in the same way. For instance, once or twice or thrice, I've caught myself feeling inferior to a white-skinned person. I just felt like I should do something for them. I should attend to them. I should be at their beck and call. I held some slight increase in reverence till I had to ask wait, hold on a minute. I'm a person, you're a person. I have things to offer. I'm smart, I'm intelligent, you're smart and intelligent. And why am I automatically assuming you're better than me because you're white? So even a Gen Z as exposed as I am is still caught in that racial stereotype. So it's the mind. You have to work on your mind and break that. Look at several years later, there's still undertones of apartheid in South Africa because of the thoughts, because of the mind. Even slavery, the colonial chains, the physical ones came off, but the mental one hasn't come off for a whole lot of people. You see here some Nigerians say, Oyibo get power. They had access to better resources at the time, so they were able to invent what you can do it as well. So I think that it's the mind. First of all, accept in your mind that some of these stereotypes, they came from people's experiences and not necessarily because you are inherently inferior or because of something you experienced yourself. Number two, look through the eyes of the modern world we now live in. Don't look at anything from the past. Let us enjoy what what this new age has given to us. Look at everything from a filter. Recheck the way you think, recheck everything. If you ever catch yourself agreeing with stereotypes, quickly snap out of it. I've had several times, several people that have proven stereotypes wrong. Yorubas are too dirty. My friend that is Yoruba is the cleanest person. I'm personally very clean. It's not every day I meet people cleaner than me. I'm almost obsessively clean. But I finally met someone cleaner than me, and she was Yoruba. Akwa Ibomites are too this. I have Akwa Ibom friends that don't fit the narrative at all. I keep asking them, are you Akwa Ibom? Igbos love money, so people just meet them and automatically they are expecting you to be greedy. But some of the most honest people I've worked with are Igbos. Whites are racist, but you meet some whites that they are so extremely loving, they could probably give you their kidney without ever knowing you. So if you can just accept it in your mind that even though stereotypes exist, we now live in a free world where anybody can be anything and you're no longer held bound by them. You begin to be free from those narratives. Thank you.
Thank you for that contribution, Taylor. Mokuti, can unmute your mic and speak.
Good evening. So, question. Let me read the question because I can answer it properly. Okay, so I do feel like we have to always make room for people's excesses. While what Lambert's, the example she gave is correct, the truth is like has an iota of truth to it. The thing is that because of how inherently we are built, we always fall back to the situation. Like, okay, so basically in genetics, I'm very sorry. There's a concept where genotypes can be the same, right? But like the phenotype will be different because of environmental, like variations may exist because of environmental factors. So the genotypes will be the same, but variations will exist because of environmental factors. And the truth of the matter is that no matter how all of us are, like from this specificity of the question you asked, that three women like this, like the one time, like the one factor you can look at it as a gene. They're all women, we're all humans, maybe the same age group, but there will always be variations because of like the environmental factors each and every one of us is all exposed to. I don't know if I'm making sense. So like we always have to make room for people's excesses because we will always fall back to the products of our environment. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying. That's why like we'll constantly, there's never a fluid relationship with anybody. There's always going to be turbulence. And if you don't make room for turbulence, if you don't have an anchor, then you will never have a good relationship with somebody. No matter how your Yoruba friend does not appear Yoruba to you, there's always a day that she's going to do something that like falls in line with the stereotype. But you must always remember that if you don't make room for these excesses, then that's where like the relationship starts to have issues. And that's like where that's what I would say, that most times relationships don't work because we fail to acknowledge environmental factors that like cause variations in people.
Thank you, Mukus, for that contribution. Yeah, stereotypes can be quite fluid and add to change. I would quickly take Okoli. You can unmute your mic and speak.
Okay. So,
you can just type what you want to say in the chat box. I would ask my last question. Then I engage you. So I would like us to contribute. I'll be calling those that have not spoken most especially. So I'll quickly read it. Agnes Sam wrote this book in exile from England about a community she could not return to. The book itself is an act of resistance. So if you were to write something to preserve something important about your own community or your history, what would it be about? So I'm going to call those that have not responded or said anything throughout this review. Slivia, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Please unmute your mic and respond. Sylvia. I don't know. Okay. I don't think she's with us.
Well, I'm here. Could you please repeat the question?
I should repeat the question.
Yes.
All right. So it says that if you were to write something to preserve something about your own community or history, how would you do that? Would you use a song? Would you use a story? Would you use a poem? What would you use? Would you make an art about it?
So if I were to... Okay, so here I'm Ghanaian, and in my community, most of our history, I'd say, is preserved through songs. They kind of give space for people to make songs about things going on in the community they do not like, things about chiefs they do not like during festivals. So people come sing their songs, then everybody hears about it. So it's like a free time to, say something about the community, but they are only allowed to say it through songs. So I would say to preserve, songs usually stick in our heads better. So I could write songs, and we could also do some write a book, I'd say, about it, because I think writings are also a way people get to know things that happen in the past. I mean, preserved through writings, because when they are spoken poems, so we tend to lose the real story at a point.
All right, thank you very much for that. Marcia, the next person I'm going to call, please unmute your mic and tell us one way you would preserve something about your own community or history. Would you use a song? Would you use a letter? Would you use a story? Or maybe you make an art about it.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Sorry, I came in late, so I'm a bit frazzled. But I think I would use storytelling. I'll present my culture, or let me see. Yes, I will present it through storytelling. That's the best way I can be expressive. So that's how I'm going to express my culture. Yeah. Through storytelling. A novel. Yeah.
All right. That's nice. Judith Idam, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing your surname correctly. Okay. I'll call one more person and then that will be the end of the review for tonight. Alfred Chibike. Alfred, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you. I would actually say music. Can you?
Yes, I can.
Since our time in early work, I'll just say music. So I feel, I won't say reading, I won't say creating it into art, because people don't really appreciate that, but people really do listen to you, whether they understand it or not. So it's better you hear it than to not read about it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Then, Okali, then I'm going to be handing over to Nat, but thank you very much, everyone, for joining this review. It was nice having this conversation with you all. Okali, you can go on.
Okay, so the best way I would preserve my history is through poems and probably through writing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is Nabas on the call? Okay, yes, yes.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Treasure, for hosting with you tonight. Really appreciate the questions were quite engaging, and I trust we're going to delve more into some of the things discussed on Sunday.
Don't forget to hit the follow button and tap on the notification icon to stay updated. That's all for today's episode. To join our book club or stay updated on future discussions, follow us on Instagram and X at Jollof Book Club, Jollof with a double F. And thank you so much for listening.